have to make sure that...
Good evening. I'd like to call the San Bruno City Council meeting of July 26, 2011 to order. And I'd like to thank the San Bruno Garden Club for the nice floral arrangement they always provide for us. Roll call, please.
Councilmember O'Connell. Here. Vice Mayor Salazar.
Here.
Mayor Ruane.
Here.
Councilmember Medina.
Here.
Councilmember Ibarra.
Here.
I'd like to ask our city attorney to please lead us in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We do have one announcement. The regular City Council meeting of August 23rd is canceled. The only regular meeting in August will be held on August the 9th, 2011. We do have one presentation this evening, and that's to present a proclamation declaring Tuesday, August 2nd, 2011 as National Night Out in San Bruno. I'd like to read this proclamation. Whereas the Citizens Crime Prevention Committee plays a vital role in assisting San Bruno Police Department through joint crime prevention efforts in San Bruno. And whereas the Citizens Crime Prevention Committee promotes the development of neighborhood watch groups, and whereas the Citizen Crime Prevention Committee is supporting the National Association of Town Watch's nationwide crime prevention program entitled National Night Out, and whereas the Citizens Crime Prevention Committee is encouraging established neighborhood watch groups to coordinate National Night Out activities, and whereas the Citizens Crime Prevention Committee is encouraging all San Bruno residents and neighborhoods to participate by turning on outside lights and meeting their neighbors. Now, therefore, be it resolved that I, Jim Ruane, Mayor of the City of San Bruno, hereby proclaim Tuesday, August the 2nd, 2011 as National Night Out, and I encourage all neighborhoods to participate by turning on outside lights and meeting their neighbors. And I'd like to present this to Mr. Robert Riegel, who does so much for us and is a member of our chair of our Crime Prevention Committee.
Member Ruane and council members, as chairman of the Citizens Crime Prevention Committee, I want to thank you for your recognition of Tuesday, August 2nd as National Night Out here in San Bruno. National Night Out, as the mayor said, is the day that all San Bruno neighbors should confirm or reconfirm their desire to heighten crime and drug prevention awareness, generate support and participation in local anti-crime programs, strengthen neighborhood spirit and police community partnership, and send a message to criminals letting them know that neighborhoods are organized and fighting back. As you know, your Citizens Crime Prevention Committee continues to expand our Neighborhood Watch program. National Night Out and Neighborhood Watch work hand in hand. San Bruno residents desiring to take the first step in forming a Neighborhood Watch block and in being recognized for their commitment of being more effective eyes and ears can call the San Bruno Police Department at 616-7100 and ask to speak to Officer Tony Perkins, or leave their name, address, phone number, and email address, and someone from the Citizens Crime Prevention Committee will provide them with printed information they can use in starting to form another San Bruno Neighborhood Watch block. Thank you again for your recognition.
Thank you, Robert, and thank you, please, to
I
our
forgot
committee.
John Dracopoulos here is one of our members, so I want to give him recognition because he's always there when we need him.
Welcome. Thank you. Thank you very much. Item number 5 is the review of the agenda. If there's no objection, I'd like to move item 11 to right after public hearings, and item 11 is receive annual report from the Senior Advisory Board. Any other changes? Okay. Item number 6, approval of the minutes of City Council meeting July 12, 2011 and special City Council meeting of July 12, 2011. Changes, errors, omissions? Seeing none, they will be approved as submitted. Item number 7 is our consent calendar. All items are considered routine or implement an earlier council action and may be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion unless requested by a council member, citizen, or staff. Any action on the...
Move to approve the consent calendar.
Second.
Motion second to approve the consent calendar on the question. All All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So carried. Item number 8, public hearings. Notices have been published, posted, and mailed. We don't have any public hearings this evening, and so we're going to have item number 11, which is to receive the annual report from the Senior Advisory Board.
Through the chair, are you going to have public comment first, or no?
We'll do that right after.
Okay.
Yeah, it's me. Honorable Mayor and council members, my name is Bill Goff. I'm on the Senior Advisory Board. And since they're all here tonight, I'd like to introduce them so people will know who they are. We have Dorothy Carmichael. We have Barbara Lusich. We have Ken Kreisel. And we have one of our specials, Loretta Grew. Where's your hand? Where's your hand, Loretta?
She's trying not to interfere.
And I can't see Elisa because her husband's sitting in the way. And Elisa, now we'll get to the business. The San Bruno Senior Citizens Board provides oversight and coordination of almost everything that happens in the senior center. Almost everything, that is. They offer over 70 classes and programs weekly. They've served 25,000 congregate lunches served every year. More than 1,500 social services referrals helping seniors and their families with personal decisions. That's Susan, who's not here. And at least 8,000 trips of the senior center bus each year, making it possible for community members to access the senior center. In other words, they'll go out and they pick up the people and bring them to the senior center every day. And some of the things that happened in the last year is we've had an increased participation in the health and fitness classes. We've had a lot of extra classes on, like Zumba, which no, I don't think too many in here could handle the Zumba class. We reduced the number of full-time staff, which has made it a little difficult on the rest of us because we have to do a little bit more around here. They've assisted with impacts of the Glenview fire, added new fundraisers, added new classes, and we purchased a wireless phone finally so that when somebody in the other room collapses or they can grab the phone in there and they can bring the phone over to where the person is. Before they had to go over, see what was wrong, run back to the phone, and now they can bring the phone right up to them and they call. If it's a 911 emergency, they can call it right away. And coming up in the next year, or in 2011 and 2012, we'll be celebrating the 25th anniversary of this building, which is really quite something. And we hope to purchase a new senior bus, because the bus we have is getting pretty raunchy, to say the least. And during the past 25 years, the annual participation has gone up over 20,000 people. 20,000 uses, I should say. It's not 20,000, but been used by same people, maybe. Some of them are the same. Anyway, to make a long story short, that's all I've got to say because I'm just one of the members of the board and I don't want to keep saying what a great place this is. So we've brought in just a participant and she's going to go up and say a few words. And that's Jean Edge. Where are you? There you are, Jean. It's all yours.
Thank you.
I've done my share.
I'm a participant. Yes, I am. It's a big honor to be here with everybody tonight. Really, I'm a little excited. And my name is Jean Edge. I started coming to this San Bruno Senior Center about 20-some years ago. And I was looking for something. Everybody comes for a different reason. I was looking for something because my mother was coming to live with me. Unfortunately, when she got here, she had Alzheimer's, so she could not handle the senior center. So I had to handle Mother. And I found a nice daycare center for her. And while she was in daycare, I thought to myself, I better explore the senior center because I needed a break from caregiving. So the first thing, there's so many programs here, and I started out, of course, being the kid. You know, I thought I was still a kid. I decided to join the walking group. And these elders walked 3 miles 3 times a week up a mountain. And I was still smoking. And I'm smoking and going into the woods with them. But I thought, well, I'll leave these gals in the dust. Well, not true. As soon as they hit the trail, they took off. I never saw them again. I never even got to meet them. But there was one lady, she was in her late 80s, and her name was Verna DeCoy. And she stayed back because she was afraid I'd get hurt. She was right. Anyway, Verna's now 107, and she's just a marvelous lady. And I guess it's from all that walking. So there are so many programs, and I thought after I ended the exercise, the walking 3 miles, which really got to me after a while, I got involved with the ceramics class. Oh, and so I was really creative, and I started making big cats. I was in the cat business. I gave cats to everyone I knew, and it was really fun and very creative and a wonderful group to be with. The classes here are just great, and they give a new life meaning to everyone that participates in them. They did to me. So one day, by accident, I opened up the back door in the back there, and I came in. And I came in on a writer's group, and I was trying to back out quietly before they knew I was there. But the instructor was a guy named Frank Duffy, and he was an old newspaper man. And he said, no, come in. He said, sit down, have a seat, check us out. Come to find out, he got paid by how many seats were full. And so that was 20 years ago. I'm still in the writers group. I have written so many short stories, I could put together a book, and I might just do that. Anyway, it's a lot of fun. So dancing is another form of exercise that I absolutely love. So in my senior years, I've been doing tap dancing, I've done ballroom dancing, I've done line dancing, I've done yoga and Tai Chi, and all the things that I never would do if it wasn't for this center. In fact, for a long time, I used to give my husband, my sweet husband, prepaid ballroom dancing class lessons, and for his birthday, Father's Day, Christmas, you know. You can imagine how thrilled he was. And I've taken Tai Chi and yoga here, as I said. I hate to admit it, but I don't drive that much anymore. I don't like to drive distances, so I don't go downtown, I don't go to the museum, I don't go to the theater. But every so often I'll sign up for one of the tours, groups that leaves from here. They're reasonable, professional drivers, and I don't have to look for a parking place, and I don't have to pay for a parking place, which is an arm and a leg. So I love going out on outings with the group and having fun, and to museums and plays and things like that. And I hear that we're trying to manifest a new bus, perhaps even with seat belts. These drivers are something else. These professional drivers are so good. They risk, well, you know what they risk when you drive downtown. Another great asset to the center is the wellness program. I have my blood checked here. I have cholesterol. Once a year I come for, you know, the big thing. Anyway, one year I was coaxing my husband to come, and he was coaxing me to come here because neither one of us had a doctor. My husband was not crazy about doctors in general, and I don't like to obey anybody, so I don't like doctors that much either. After we took the tests, he strutted back to the back nurse back here, and she looked at my husband and she said, "You have to see a doctor today, sir." So that same day we had to find a doctor. We shuffled out of the place like two old-timers, you know, and we found a nice lady doctor. In fact, he's got 3 lady doctors now. He does real well with these lady doctors, that he likes them. and they take good care of us. Did I mention my husband is a doctor? He doesn't like the doctors, though. So for the past year or two, I've stayed for the lunch program, which is very nutritious, very delicious, and for a lot of people, it's the only meal that they get. There's a lot of people that live alone, and they just do not make meals like Gloria makes and the center serves. It's just a beautiful thing, and we're serenaded by this Italian fellow, Vince, who plays what's it? Not the concertina, the accordion. And he sings romantic love songs to us. I mean, really, how good can it get? So, and on Tuesday we have a DJ, and so everybody's rocking and rolling and singing. And these old people, I mean, really old people are singing out loud and dancing, all dancing. In fact, there's this one fellow, he left the floor in a huff. This is a big, tall guy, and he left the dance floor in a huff because they didn't play his particular line dance song. And his girlfriend came up to me and she said, "You really have to forgive him. He's 92, you know." There's another lady here who just got her driver's license renewed, and she was so happy because she passed the test. She's 85 and she got a 5-year extension. I mean, the woman's happy. So my friend Gil had a stroke. He was brought in here with a walker. He could hardly walk, and he could not talk because he was in a coma for 2 months, and he had these things down his windpipes. So his son brought him here and sat him at our table. Now he's dancing, he's exercising, he's taking hiking walks, and we can't stop him from talking. I feel like I have a family at the center, and I've learned there is a graceful and fun and interesting way to live in your senior years. Of course, if there wasn't a place for all this to happen, it would be a very different story. I'm very proud to be a member of the San Bruno Center, and the staff here are the finest workers I've ever met. You know who they are. The volunteers are the greatest, and my experience here at the center has been an invaluable asset in my life and an asset in the county of San Mateo. Thank you for listening.
Well, thank you very much, Jean and Bill, and to Randy and his crew, especially Wendy, who is, a pillar here. This place wouldn't be what it is without you. So it's a wonderful place, probably the most popular senior center south of parts of San Francisco. And I know I guess we want to get rid of the old raunchy bus tonight, hopefully. So thank you very much. Item number 9, public comment on items not on the agenda. It is the council's policy to refer matters raised in this forum to staff for investigation and or action where appropriate. Mr. Rico, did you have something to?
Just as your representative to the mosquito board, I left a few flyers. We would like the citizens to help us curtail the spread of West Mile through mosquitoes by reporting dead birds. So there's some flyers in English and in Spanish back here for anyone that wants it. And Wendy said if I get her the red mosquito swatters, she'll put a couple up in the center. So thank you for your continuing support.
Appreciate that. The Brown Act prohibits the council from discussing or acting upon any matter not agendized pursuant to state law. Would anyone like to address the council under public comment? I'd seen no one go right into conduct of business, and wouldn't you know, item A is adopt a resolution accepting a loan of $50,000 from the nonprofit Nutrition Site Council of San Bruno, appropriating $79,000 from the Equipment Reserve Fund, and authorizing the city manager to execute a purchase contract with Eldorado Bus Sales in the amount of $129,000 for the purchase of a new senior center bus and to get rid of the old raunchy bus. Staff report, please.
I haven't voted yet.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and council members.
Randy, before you start, I'm just curious as to how we were able to arrange tonight the report of the Senior Advisory Board, then that goes right into this item with a couple plugs. That was well strategized.
The orchestration is doing wonderful tonight. Yes,
Yeah.
it is. Absolutely. Yeah. As was pointed out, that the senior center does utilize a 1997 20-passenger bus 5 days a week, averages approximately 15 seniors to and from the center. It's also used for field trips and has been used by the city for certain occasions, shuttle service for town hall meetings, trips to San Francisco and other peninsula destinations. The item before you tonight is a twofold staff recommendation. One, to accept a donated loan from the Senior Nutrition Site Council, and two, to authorize the city manager to execute a purchase agreement for a new bus. As it was mentioned, the bus is now over 13 years old. It has over 142,000 miles on it. It's subject to frequent breakdowns, causing a considerable amount of time in the repair shop and higher maintenance costs. In addition, the new emissions regulations dictate that if we continue to use the bus beyond this December, we will need to retrofit it at a cost of about $16,000. The bus was scheduled to be replaced in 2007-08 with the funds from the equipment reserve. But when it came to looking at the bus, a new type of bus was desired and was more than the available funding. The bus that is being recommended, a bus of that same make and type, has been brought up here to the senior center on a couple of occasions within the past year. The seniors had a chance to go through it, to walk through it, the drivers to talk to the manufacturer about it. It is being recommended by both staff and the senior advisory board. It holds 23 passengers, slightly more than the current bus, with especially in the configuration when you get the wheelchairs in place. It has more safety features and uses a wheelchair ramp rather than a lift. So it lowers a little bit, the lift comes all the way down to the sidewalk. You can wheel onto it, you can walk onto it if you wish. It makes it easier for passengers, it reduces the maintenance cost, and it also eliminates the need for the mandatory state inspections. Although the bus with the lower floor does not come in the hybrid model that the City Council prefers, it does meet the air quality requirements by using a much cleaner type of diesel engine. To supplement the available funds, staff applied for and did receive a grant in October of 2009. The grant was for $100,000 from the Metropolitan Transportation Commission. It was their Lifeline Transportation Program. It's a state program, state bonds. It was voter approved, but the bonds are still unsold. What's been explained to us is that the state, because of its financial problems, feels as though this was not the right time to do the bond sales. They may be sold by the end of this year, possibly early next year. Either way, it would be difficult for us to wait until that sale happens, because then by the time we purchase the bus, we would have to retrofit the existing bus at the $16,000 cost. The Senior Nutrition Site Council, it's a nonprofit corporation established to support the programs here at the Senior Center, has offered to loan the city $50,000 at a 0% interest rate to assist with the purchasing of the new bus. The loan would not need to be repaid until the grant funds were delivered to the city, regardless of how long that may be. And if the city never received the grant funds, the loan would not need to be repaid. Adding this amount to the funds that are available in the general reserve will give the city the resources to purchase the new bus. The bus is sold locally by El Dorado Bus Sales, and it has been through a competitive bid process by the state of California. It's on the state's contract list. The city is not required to conduct a separate bidding process and can award the bid at the state price of $129,000, including tax and delivery. When the city receives the funds from the Lifetime Transportation Grant funds, as I said, as they were voter approved, $50,000 will go towards the Senior Nutrition Site Council to repay the loan. $50,000 would go back to the equipment reserve. And I would be happy to answer any questions council may have.
Thank you. Any questions of staff?
Through the chair.
Mr. Ibarra.
Very, very generous offer, and right in the nick of time. But what my concern would be, and hopefully it's been discussed, I'm sure it has, does the $50,000 loan put the Nutrition Council into any near future risk financially?
It has been discussed, and it does not put them into any risk at all.
Through the chair, very quickly, I was also just going to thank the Nutrition Site Council for stepping forward, as well as the other groups, councils that have done that in the past. Things in this room, chairs, tables, other things in this room alone have been contributed for at various times in order so that the center can continue to thrive. And as when it was established back some time ago now, that it has been run by volunteers primarily and with a lot of love and care, and it shows by the building that we sit in today. So thank you for coming forward and trying to contribute once again toward improving life for everybody here in San Bruno.
Good. Any other questions of staff? Action.
I'll introduce the resolution.
Councilmember O'Connell.
Aye.
Councilmember Medina.
Aye.
Councilmember Ibarra.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Salazar.
Aye.
Mayor Ruane.
Aye. Good. New bus is on the way.
There you go.
Item 10B, receive a report and provide direction regarding expiration of moratorium on the establishment and operation of medical marijuana collectives. City Attorney.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, the issue tonight, I believe this is on, yes, is what action to take, if any, about the city's moratorium on medical marijuana establishments. And as you know from the staff report, our current moratorium expires on the 25th of September of this year. So we're looking for direction at tonight's meeting so we can bring forward to you any new ordinance for introduction at the August 9th meeting with an adoption scheduled for September 13th, since as you know, you don't have a second meeting in August. This is a complex and still changing field. However, the vast majority of cities and counties that have considered this have either adopted a moratorium or, on the other hand, enacted a permanent ban on such establishments. It is important to realize that a ban on establishments, including, however defined, collectives, cooperatives, dispensaries, does not affect the right of a qualified individual, that's somebody with a medical condition, to cultivate and use the allowed amount of marijuana for medical purposes. And so that's defined in state law. So whatever action is taken, patients still have a right to possess and use medical marijuana under California law. And that's because the state law that the voters adopted still provides a defense to a criminal charge of possession of marijuana. It also appears unlikely that the federal government would enforce its laws, because of course marijuana is still illegal under federal law. It's unlikely they would enforce their laws against patients who use the specified amounts of marijuana for medical purposes. It seems much more likely that the federal government would target dispensaries or other establishments that are either selling or distributing marijuana, either for medical but also for perhaps non-medical purposes. Chief Telford has provided us with an update to his October 2009 memo, and that update outlines some of the secondary effects of allowing medical marijuana establishments. So what's a secondary effect? Well, he's documented that criminal activity has occurred at medical marijuana establishments in San Mateo, and in at least 4 instances, that same kind of criminal activity was occurring in San Bruno at residential locations where marijuana was being cultivated. There's also similar evidence from communities around the state. What does this mean? Well, we think it means that allowing any type of establishment that distributes marijuana for medical purposes or otherwise does create a real and serious risk of nearby criminal activity. And the chief's available to answer any questions about that if you have any. So in the staff report, I've outlined 4 options for you. Let me just briefly go through them. The first option is to adopt an ordinance prohibiting any establishments. Qualified patients, as I've indicated before, could still grow and use marijuana in the allowed amounts for medical purposes, as allowed by state law. As also noted in my report, the council could revisit the issue if the legal landscape changes. The second option is to allow and regulate establishments, such as San Francisco does, such as San Mateo does, San Mateo County and a few other cities. So the police department and community services department would become involved in both permitting and enforcement of that ordinance. A third option is to consider adopting a new moratorium because this one expires in September, as I've indicated. But under state law, that actually requires some new facts and circumstances different from the ones that supported the first moratorium. It's not entirely clear that such facts and circumstances exist, but if you're interested in that option more intently, we could evaluate that option and bring it back to you for review. The final option is to just let the moratorium expire. Well, what would that mean? Well, right now, medical marijuana establishments are currently not permitted in any zoning district. And there's case law that says if they're not specifically permitted, they are prohibited. So therefore, regardless of the moratorium, in San Bruno right now, if the moratorium were to expire tomorrow, the city could take the position that medical marijuana establishments are prohibited. However, somebody could apply for such an establishment, and community services staff would have to review their application to see if it's consistent with other allowed uses in the zoning district. For example, somebody could say their medical marijuana establishment is similar to, say, a pharmacy or some other sort of service enterprise. Whatever decision staff made on an individual application could then be appealed to you, the city council, and then you would have to make a decision based on the individual facts and circumstances of that application. To date, staff has received a few but very sporadic inquiries to open medical marijuana facilities, and none recently that I'm aware of. So all of these options do carry some legal risk. The city could be sued for adopting a ban. They could be sued for regulating too strictly. They could be sued for not regulating strictly enough, or for denying somebody a permit on an individual basis. But the policy decision really for you tonight is whether the documented secondary effects that have been identified in the report outweigh a desire to permit medical marijuana establishments that cultivate and distribute marijuana on a larger than individual scale. So that's the issue for you tonight. I'd be happy to answer any questions, as I indicated the chief is as well.
Any questions of staff, discussion, or action? Mr. Medina?
I was just going to ask if the chief had anything he wanted to add, or if the city attorney's information encompassed everything that he thought was important for the council to hear.
I think the city attorney's covered it very well, and all of the secondary effects, as the city attorney mentioned, are in your staff report.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
No questions. Through the chair, Mr. Mayor. When we last set this moratorium in place, I remember you, Mr. Mayor, stating that what your opinion is of this, and I think it's time that we make a statement. I leave it to the council as far as what direction we go, whether we extend a moratorium, but I'd like to put it on record that I'm in favor of an all-out ban on these type of establishments. I've heard enough about the secondary issues, and one thing I haven't heard is I haven't heard anything from patients. So the proposal of coming into San Bruno with this type of establishment is giving me the impression that it's purely for profit, and it's just too much of a risk, and we've got more important things in this town to deal with. So I'd like to make that statement and be in favor with my colleagues as to how we take care of that in the near future.
Through the chair, after doing a lot of review, actually speaking to two folks who are between 18 and 20 who have ID cards to try to better understand and appreciate why they have it, what's the process, how do they acquire it. One particular person is for insomnia, the other is for pain from an auto accident, which indicates to me that obviously the regulation of these medical ID cards are something that I still think I have a concern with. This has come now for the third time to the council. I would agree that to continue the moratorium, I don't know that we have enough information that alters the facts from the existing findings from the chief that is obviously if that's what the council wishes to do, the majority. The other thing too is it's going to take more time with the community development department, as was indicated, as well as our police department. And at a time when we have issues we need to deal with on the streets, when we have less officers and personnel at that end, I think we need to focus on what's important to this community. And so for those reasons and the information that I've been reading over this last week and other communities and what this is currently, I think a ban would also take care of this issue. I think it's come up for the third time and we need to make a decision. But it also does not discount the ability for future councils or voters to bring this issue back or to modify this decision tonight.
Anyone else? Michael, Irene?
It sounds like sounds like we're ready to make a vote. I don't have anything to add except I agree with you two and
Good.
good. Okay, so
I don't think it's any secret on how I feel, so would someone like to make a motion?
I'll make the motion that we direct staff to bring back the necessary resolution to ban dispensaries, medical marijuana dispensaries.
I'll second.
Motion second on the floor on the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Okay.
Item 10C, receive a report regarding settlement of Regional Water Quality Control Board versus San Bruno and Baykeeper versus San Bruno, and authorize the city manager to sign both settlement agreements. Staff, please.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, this is a report on two settlements that would become final if you authorize the city manager to sign the agreements that are attached to the staff report. Let me just make a couple of brief comments. Our Community Services Director, Clara Fabry, is also here as well. These settlements would achieve the goal of reducing the city's sewer system overflows, and we'll abbreviate those as SSOs. So the staff believes that that's good for the environment, good for the residents, and good for the city. And let me elaborate briefly as to why that is. Unfortunately, the city has experienced many SSOs over the past years, which made us, as well as other peninsula cities, a target for litigation from environmental organizations as well as from the Regional Water Quality Control Board. I think all of the parties involved in the litigation can agree that reducing the number and extent of SSOs is important to protect the environment. With a lot of SSOs, the city's residents can be subjected to property damage and loss of use of their personal and real property. That costs the city money in claims and litigation expenses. And if these cases proceed to litigation instead of settling as proposed, then the city could be subjected to hundreds of thousands of dollars in additional fines, penalties, and attorney's fees, far in excess of what we've been able to successfully negotiate. Now, as you know, the city retained very experienced outside counsel to represent the city's interests in these negotiations, and those negotiations extended for many months. The attorneys briefed you in closed session along the way, and you made a very thoughtful and, we believe, cost-effective decision to resolve these matters now instead of prolonging them at far greater expense. And the settlements that staff is proposing here tonight are indeed consistent with other settlements on the peninsula. All of the other parties, Baykeeper and the Regional Board, have approved these agreements. And in fact, you should know that at the most recent public hearing, the Regional Water Quality Control Board praised the city's efforts in reaching a settlement. Staff therefore recommends authorizing the city manager to sign both agreements on behalf of the city. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions of staff?
Through the chair, quick one. Within this large document, there are various capital improvement projects. A affirmative vote, at least from myself, would not automatically, in my view, for myself, speaking from only me, is that would automatically say yes to all these capital improvement projects. I think that there are ways it needs to be looked at, whether it's shared services, whether it's contracting out, or whatever it is. But that I wanted to understand that this yes vote on this does not necessarily encompass all the capital improvement projects as they go forward without having further review and dialogue and vote by the council.
I think the city council retains the discretion to decide how to implement the capital improvement program.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments, Irene?
No, I had none, thank you.
Nothing.
May I
Yes.
actually answer
City Manager.
Councilmember Medina's question? It is fully staff's intent to treat any capital project or budget issue that is anticipated to be implemented in response to and by virtue of the settlement agreements, to treat those in the normal manner that we treat any other budget or capital project issue. In other words, those items will return to the City Council for budget authority and for award of construction contracts. That said, the Council should, at least in my opinion, understand in authorizing these settlement agreements that they were carefully and arduously negotiated over a fairly long period of time, which I believe the Council is well aware of. And it is fully expected as a result of our execution, your approval and my execution of these agreements, that the necessary work effort will be performed in order to reduce sanitary sewer overflows. Our failure to accomplish that, whether it's by the specifics of the anticipated actions or potentially over time by other actions, our failure to do so would subject the city to the potential for substantial additional penalties or legal action.
If I could, Mr. Mayor, can you please explain so that those that are maybe listening to us, we're not settling because we necessarily did anything wrong. I mean, these are environmentalists that have come here and said, for their own benefits and for their own programs, feel that we haven't done enough. And by all means, we have master plans. We have, for many years now, have been, trying, to minimize, these type of occurrences. But I don't want the public to think that we got, financially and severely slapped on the wrist, for something that we did wrong. So I know you can explain it in simpler and more concise terms.
Well, I don't think so. I think you said it well in saying that the plaintiffs in the litigation did not believe that the city did enough, despite its current and ongoing efforts to reduce SSOs. Having said that, we did have a lot of SSOs, and certainly in comparison to other cities on the peninsula. So that's one of the things that made us a target. So despite some of our best efforts in limited budget times, some choices were made, and so we had more SSOs than some other comparable cities. Having said that, the capital improvement program that's contemplated in the settlement agreements is a more aggressive effort to resolve those issues so that we protect the environment, protect the citizens, and protect the city.
Thank you.
Having said that, before we take action, I just want to say also the citizens of this city should know that we have aggressively, over the last number of years, bit the bullet to a lot of criticism to raise rates so that we could aggressively pursue SSOs and all the other infrastructure problems we have in some of these areas of the city that are well over 100 years old. If we were a foster city or a much newer community where we have very little spills, it's not an issue. Or if we were a city that was derelict in our duties, going, backwards and forwards, and just said we don't really care, then I could see the fines and the penalties. I understand the aggressive nature. We're going to have to pursue more aggressive than before going forward. But for me, I'll approve this. But it's very unfortunate that the fines and penalties monies, to me, would be a lot better spent under the streets and the sidewalks of this city, instead of paying them out, because those are monies that we can't use in the future to aggressively pursue the SSOs that we've been trying to do. So, and unfortunately, going forward, anything that's a shortfall will in fact have to go to the ratepayers. That's a very unfortunate situation, and some cities are worse shape than we are, and some are a lot better. So, it's really an unfortunate situation. I'd much rather see, Instead of fines and penalties, the money's going to what we were doing in the first place, which is attacking this problem that we have under the streets and sidewalks of our city. So having said that, I'd ask for some action.
Through the chair, I'd make a motion that we authorize the city manager to secure the settlement, sign the settlement.
Second.
It's a resolution.
Is it a resolution?
Is it a resolution?
Yeah.
No, it's
Yeah.
not. I'm sorry. Okay.
It's
Just
not-
by motion.
It's a motion.
It's a motion. Okay. There is a motion and a second on the floor on the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So carried. Item D, adopt a resolution approving the city manager's recommended water and wastewater enterprise fund budgets for fiscal year 2011-12.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, Ed Binsoon, Finance Director. On June 28th, staff presented the city manager's recommended 2011-12 water and wastewater operating budget for City Council consideration and approval. In order to provide additional time for City Council review and consideration of these budgets were postponed and rescheduled at a later date within 30 days. Tonight, I'm bringing forth these budgets for your consideration. The 2011-12 water revenues budget include the third year of the three-year rate program that was approved by Council in 2009. The operating expenditures also include funding for a rate model update that was just talked about for your consideration for this year. In the wastewater budget, included in the revenues are also, again, the third year of the three-year rate program. And also in terms of the expenditures in the wastewater budget, the cost for complying with the Bay Keepers and the Regional Water Quality Board settlement agreements, again, something you just talked about, have also been included. These are just the operating budget costs and not the CIP costs, if I can point out. So with that, my staff's recommendation is for the City Council to consider the 11-12 water and wastewater budget, and I'm available to take any questions you have on these two budgets.
Any questions of staff?
Through the chair.
Rico?
First, I want to thank the council and staff for allowing us more opportunity and time in which to review this. I also know that I have a very high standard, and I appreciate the extra time that staff has spent in answering the questions and getting me further information. When it comes to these items, as I indicated before, I think it's important, as the mayor said, we had some criticism for the rates increases, but it was to help the infrastructure and try to maintain the system. And what I hope and wish in return is that we owe it to the community that we represent as the elected officials, as well as to the ratepayers, that we diligently go through and do our appraisal assessment and give our commentary and recommendations in order to know that the dollar is being spent wisely. In going over some of this information with staff, these are some things that that stands out that I think we need to look at in the future. That when we have and this is from the staff's information, when we have a water rate comparison with other jurisdictions, Cal Water is at $49.73 for an average monthly bill, and we're at $62.12. I think it's the right thing to do to ask why and what can we do. I know when we have the CMMS system that has an annual support of $16,130, and those are the things that are supposed to help manage the system and what the operations are. When we had it the first time come up in July of 2010, it was an annual cost of $6,500 divided by 4 divisions. When we had an item come up back in 2007, the initial, there's almost an $8,000 annual cost that wasn't really specifically spelled out in the staff report. Now, correctly, logically, you would assume that there is some ongoing maintenance costs for these programs. But I think these are things that we need to think about in the bigger picture and make sure that we're taking the time and the diligence to make sure, again, things are being spent wisely. We're going to be hiring a management analyst that the position's been open. Now we're going to fill it because it obviously has a need at this time. And that part of that person's position per staff is going to be helping to manage the system that we initiated back in 2007. I think we need to be able to make sure when we're investing in these things, when we're going forward, that we think of the big picture about staffing, implementation, and an effective timetable. So I know staff brought up to my attention that under publications and subscriptions, the central garage, there's $1,500 that hasn't been utilized in the last 2 years. Those are the type of things that I'm saying that I wish us to do our due diligence, to lead by example, and if it's not needed, then it needs to be reviewed and withdrawn from the budget. The director has said that item can be withdrawn from the budget since it hasn't been utilized in the last 2 years. I don't want to go on and on. I want to say that I'm appreciative again of the staff's diligence and effort, and I know that they have a more full understanding, and I have a lot of my questions answered, and so I am going to support and vote yes for this. That might surprise them, but I'm going to. But going forward, also when we have these items coming up about equipment purchases, head count, or budgetary items, I'm hoping that the information, some of the items that I've brought up, the detail, thinking forward, making the right decisions and recommendations to this council by staff is really thought of and thoughtful for the community that we all serve. Thank you.
Since you're satisfied, would you like to introduce the resolution for adoption?
Through Chair, I'll introduce the resolution for adoption.
Councilmember Ibarra.
Aye.
Councilmember O'Connell.
Aye.
Councilmember Medina.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Salazar.
Aye.
Mayor Ruane.
Aye. Item 10E, adopt a resolution approving fourth quarter budget amendments for the fiscal year 2010-11 operating and capital improvement program budgets.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The 2010-11 adopted budget was developed based on best revenue and expenditures information that was available at the time of preparation. As a result, periodic adjustments are sometimes necessary as circumstances and conditions change, and staff typically returns to the City Council each quarter in the fiscal year to review and request approval of budget adjustments. For the fourth quarter adjustments, there are a couple of CIP projects that the City Council has reviewed during the course of the 3 months. Included in them is the diesel storage tank replacement project. A $40,000 appropriation is requested for remediation of contaminated soil and groundwater associated with the removal of the old storage tank. Funding is from the General Fund Reserve. An appropriation of $71,548 for the Sleep Lane Pavement and Bicycle Lane Improvement Project, and $94,927 for the street rehabilitation project is needed for the construction services associated with that project, and that was approved by the City Council on April 26. Also associated with this project was a change order for $68,200, which allows for the repaving of Sleep Lane, and that was approved by the City Council on June 28th. Lastly, in the wastewater fund, $112,000 appropriation is requested, and that's due to legal costs that were incurred in association with the Baykeeper and the regional board matter just discussed earlier. And also somewhat related with this was emergency repairs to sewer infrastructure that occurred during the course of the year. And this is really the obligations that the city has in relationship to the repair and the replacement of the sewer main so that we can minimize SSOs, sanitary sewer overflows. With that, I'll take any questions the City Council has in terms of budget adjustments.
Any questions of staff?
If not, on this one, I'll go ahead and introduce a resolution approving the fourth quarter budget amendments.
Councilmember Medina.
Aye.
Councilmember Ibarra.
Aye.
Councilmember O'Connell.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Salazar.
Aye.
Mayor Ruane.
Aye. Item 10F, receive, report, and approve implementation of Phase 1 of the Fire Consolidation Plan.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and members of the City Council. Before I get started, I would like to introduce Deputy Chief Mark Lattis from Central County Fire. He spent an inordinate amount of time and effort in putting this plan together for all the agencies. So, and if I get in trouble, I think I might have to refer to him on a couple of tough questions. Good evening. Tonight I'm here to present an informational report and requesting your approval to proceed with the implementation of Phase 1 of the Fire Consolidation Plan. As you are all aware, several reports have been made to the City Council regarding fire consolidation and results of consultants' recommendations. All of these reports have indicated there is a financial savings opportunities for the participating agencies. The intent of the presentation tonight is to bring you up to the current status of the process as directed by our subcommittee members, Mayor Wayne and Councilperson Medina. On July 11, 2011, the subcommittee members from the Central County Fire Board, Millbrae, and San Bruno met and received the proposed Phase 1 implementation plan. This plan includes an administrative merger and the consolidation of Hillside's fire stations in Millbrae and Burlingame. The result of this meeting was agreement to present this plan to the full City Council of each agency for their approval. The plan consists of the definition of the success of the program will be evidence of accomplishing the financial targets and objectives, plan for the JPA agreements, governance model maintains the local control and equality of decision making, the financial agreement ensuring financial safety for the agencies, operational success, which includes response times and representation for all the agencies, and a plan for the joint labor contract. Projected annual savings for the agencies is on the board. This is the administrative. It was a simple quarter, 25% split of the projected $380,000 savings. I will identify that these savings are only accrued when the full administrative implementation is complete. Millbrae Burlingame, the Hillsborough savings represents the station combination of the two stations and the savings represented there. The temporary fire station, some of the dimensions that we considered were the coverage, community impact, and the cost. This was a map of the proposed sites, the alternative sites we identified as possible sites. The recommended site is Site 1. We had looked at Site 4. It was determined that this was not a good location due to traffic considerations. Sites number 3 was the matrix report. That was computer generated, which simply looked at the middle. There's no property available there, but it was recognized as just a computer model. Some of the dimensions that we looked at for the sites were obviously response area, community impact, cost, and the distance and time. At the top number, the red number represents mileage. The bottom number below that is time to the distance from each of the stations. So you can see that Site 1 still represents a very desirable station. The cost of the proposed temporary station will be shared only by the two agencies sharing that station, which will be the City of Burlingame or Central Fire and Millbrae. The Phase 1 administrative merge and pilot study, as one of the concerns I think was the representation and the governance of the model. The operational oversight committee will consist of the 4 city managers, which will review performance and finances, analyze data, and make recommendations, report to the City Council, and meet regularly. Again, this remains that each fire department maintains jurisdiction over its own agency. The timeline for the Phase 1 is we're projecting that October 1st, the administrative merge would occur. In port, that would be joint staff meetings, the sharing of personnel to staff those stations. The temporary fire stations, we project that the savings we'll get from the overtime savings will assist both Central and Millbrae in paying for the cost of the station. temporary station. March 1st is a data analysis where we would collect the data, come back, return to council with the information, either providing success or questions, and then draft the phase 2 plan. May 2013, a decision would be made to go with phase 2, the full consolidation model, discontinue the pilot, or continue further on the phase 1. Full phase 2 is a full merge scenario, and this would be the Central County Fire Authority. Each council would have representatives, probably 2 from each council as board members, and 1 city manager would rotate as an administrative officer. This would meet every 4 months, report back to councils, review performance and finances, and analyze data and make recommendations. The impacts of the phase 1 plan on San Bruno was anticipated to be minimal in terms of level of service. The station relocation plan in the other 2 cities will be a pilot program, again, to confirm response times into the 2 districts and evaluate impacts on outside agencies. Fire Station 52 may see a slight increase in calls of service and move-ups as part of the county's coverage plan. The plan will include deploying a flex engine that will be staffed weekdays from 8 to 5 to lessen those impacts. Should the plan not come to full fruition, I see no impact on the current shared services relationship between Millbury and San Bruno. Labor groups from each of the respective agencies have shown support for the proposed plan, and following the implementation of the administrative merger and station consolidation, the city and departments will jointly work to address the outstanding issues and items for phase 2 of the plan and return to the city council with those recommendations. That concludes my report, but I believe the city manager also has some comments.
I wanted to supplement what I think is a very thorough presentation made by the chief, simply to acknowledge primarily for the benefit of the 3 city council members who have not participated in the ongoing subcommittee discussions that have been held over the last approximately 9 months. So we've met a few times with the other agencies to discuss a variety of issues. What may appear to you as a somewhat shorthand presentation that was identified in the PowerPoint in the chief's comments tonight really represents a narrowing or a focusing of the various issues that have been under discussion and of concern among the elected officials in the 4 cities and the 3 fire agencies. So I think we've got it down to a manageable number of topic areas that really need to be addressed, many of them in the phase 1 trial program, and the rest of them over the next several months during the trial program, so that we could return to you approximately 15 months from now with issues of governance and agreement language having been at least relatively finalized, so that you have a completed package in order to consider a full consolidation. I would like to also mention, because I would feel remiss if I did not call to your attention, in addition to our strong recommendation that this council agreed to continue to pursue full consolidation, I'd like to provide one small caveat, and that is that the implementation plan as it is currently being presented to you and to the other agencies does not, let me say it in a positive way, it intends continued work and intent towards full consolidation. That is the anticipated intent and expectation of each of the 4 partner agencies. However, the trial program can go forward independently, and station consolidation and administrative merger could represent either a final state or simply a trial program that ends up not actually going further to a full consolidation. Absolute worst case scenario might represent a situation where consolidation of the station turns out to be successful. However, administrative merger or full consolidation turns out not to be as anticipated successful and or not desired by the parties, in which case the city of San Bruno then would have another decision to make down the road. At this point, we are again strongly recommending that the city council join your colleagues on the other 3 city councils in endorsing that we move forward with continued work with an actual tangible work product this time, that being the trial program to consolidate the station and at least attempt to make a final partnership in operating one station where there are now 2. It is anticipated that, I believe that the city of Burlingame has already received and acted on this item. The city of Millbrae is, with a positive vote of 4-1 in the city of Burlingame. Millbrae is considering the item tonight, and Central County, Hillsborough will consider the item in August. Was I wrong?
You're always right.
Oh, well, not always. The gentleman in the back of the room is
He
the
would be
keeper of all knowledge. In any case, it is anticipated that a conclusion as to whether the implementation plan phase 1 goes forward will be reached very quickly by all 4 of the agencies. So we look forward to being able, as I said, to do something tangible and hopefully successful in service to our mutual communities.
Good, thank you. Any questions of staff?
Through the chair.
Michael?
So my first question was related to the on the definition of success. You said evidence of accomplishing financial targets, and the financial targets that you presented, you said, were related to the final product. And I'm wondering if there are estimates of interim savings that we're going to be judging against during this 15-month period, or how are we going to judge this? How do we know we're meeting our financial targets?
Well, hopefully, as we go through the process, Councilman Salazar, we will bring back those figures. Most of those are through attrition and position changes that we could bring back as those occur and update the councils on a quarterly basis, whatever is appropriate.
Okay. So one of my other questions is just related to the overall length of the trial period, which to me seems a little bit drawn out, and it was my understanding that the reason we're bringing the consultants in early on was so that we could sort of expedite this, bring in the experts who have done this before, take all the roadblocks out, and then just move ahead with this. And so now we're still looking at 15 months of trial period, and I'm wondering what's going to be going on in those 15 months that's going to draw that out.
Well, I think initially it'll take us some time to set up the recommended site with your approval. It is a vacant lot, essentially, that has to be graded and put a pad on. We need to get temporary trailers in for the station, tents and so forth, utilities that will have to go in before we can staff that station. So that's one issue, and I think we gave it a lengthy time to bring back data on response times to make sure that we try to cover all the bases as far as incidents and response zones and so forth. And if there are issues that we can redo districts, even to the point where we can neutralize some of unnecessary move-ups or whatever it may be. And I think that was, it was the length of time I would prefer it would be shorter, but I think everybody, to gather that data and be confident in that data, it will probably take some time.
Okay. So when could we then, oh, okay, so it says here temporary fire station is July of 2012, so roughly a year before we start collecting data.
Yes.
Okay. All right, thank you. And no, I think that was it. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Through the
Okay.
chair.
Irene?
Thank you. On your, and maybe I just don't understand it, on your administrative merge and pilot study, phase 1, could you go through the flow chart? I'm not sure how this is going to work, or is this how it's going to work, or is this a proposal that you're going to try out through this time period, or
The
walk me
phase
through it.
1 is actually normal operations. I think the change where you'll see the oversight committee, it will consist of the 4 city managers who will go through the data review, analysis, report back to council on data provisions, and so essentially each city retains its own jurisdiction over the department.
Okay, who's this mega fire chief down on the bottom, though? Is that?
I don't know.
Is that?
It might be right. It might be made up.
Because it's it looks everyone retains theirs, or is this? Is this you, or is this?
The administrative merger phase 1 plan does include the elimination of 1 fire chief position over the course of the phase 1 plan.
Over the 15 months?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And then you still have this fire chief down here, so.
There's only 1 there.
There's only 1 left. Okay. Okay. Gotcha.
If I could just add, there is no intent of layoff in order to accomplish the phase 1 administrative merger. Any position loss is expected to occur via attrition over probably an extended period of time. No decision has been made about who would fill the fire chief position or precisely when winnowing down, if you will, from 2 to 1 might occur. And at this point, that diagram was intended really to demonstrate, as the chief indicated, that going back to a comment I made earlier, that there were a number of issues that have been the subject of previous discussion at the subcommittee level. There was a desire to be clear about what the jurisdictional authorities might be and whether individual city councils might retain some degree of authority over their fire department's operation during the course of the phase 1 program, and the answer, as opposed to some sort of consolidated body becoming responsible for policy level decision making. And the answer to that is that would not occur during the phase 1 implementation. The intent really, as shown on this diagram, was to maintain the integrity of each of the policy body jurisdictions. That was really the intent here, not to beg the question you asked, because we don't have a clear and specific answer for exactly when or how we would reach the 1 chief scenario.
Okay. Thank you. That's my only question.
Mr.
The rest
Ibarra.
of it sounds good.
Getting back to the selection of a fire station, I can't imagine that all of our current fire stations went through such extensive studies. I'm just curious, new communities that build new fire stations now, do they go through an extensive study as to timing, location, economics, land availability, things, and then end up with the cheapest site, or is it truly based on the time and the response times and distance?
We really do consider all those things, Councilman Ibarra, is location, availability, cost, obviously, and we kind of use ISO Insurance Service Office's response time criteria as far as assembling crews on structure fires and so forth and so on. So if you look up and down the peninsula, most of the stations are probably 1.5 miles to 2 miles apart up and down the peninsula, and it's on the peninsula. The 101 corridor is where you find the majority of the calls, but you also have the access up and down the peninsula. When you get into the hills, you don't have that thoroughfares north-south. You have east-west thoroughfare, so it's a little bit different considering, but you're very correct, and all those components go into selecting station sites.
So it brings me to, my follow-up question is that I'm sure we have residents on the west side of our community that are very pleased with the location of Station 52.
Correct.
Now that we're going to be part of a entire family now, are there real concerns up there in Millbrae-Burlingame with a station either moving further away from where they're used to having a station?
I think there probably will be concerns when anytime in the fire service, two of the toughest things are to build a fire station and to remove fire station. And I think that holds true. But I think in our consideration, when we relocate a station, for instance, from 38 to the new location, those immediate residents, you extend response times, but on the other side, you get improved in response times to another neighborhood district or something like that. So it's kind of a balancing act.
Thank you.
Mr. Medina?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a few things. As was indicated by staff, the mayor and I, along with the chief and the city manager, have been sitting through meetings, and they've even sat through probably double what we've sat through in trying to come up with various plans and opportunities in which to move this forward. Also, from my colleagues, we already do receive a savings with Millbrae, with our agreement with the chief and that chief. So we have a savings additionally, in addition to what would be gained through this admin service, shared service. The length of the project was brought up, which is a valid question because it seems like this has been a long discussion. But when you try to get 4 communities together and they are all representing their constituency, sometimes you need to kind of go at a pace that will allow all communities to be, shall we say, as comfortable as possible in bringing this forward back. And so this was the first step that would allow this opportunity to see if it is a good venture for the future. On the governance, the only thing I didn't see on the slideshow, which I'd mentioned in the July 11th meeting, was about having the subcommittee members still meet, maybe if it was once or twice. But I thought that was important so that we still have a voice at the table, because obviously we answer to constituents, and this will serve our community. And I know also a thing that was brought up at the July 11th meeting, you had quite a few of the personnel that were there. For the most part, not everybody's going to be happy with everything, but labor seemed to be working collectively together to try to walk down this path and do the best job possible to make it work. But I know it brings up about having fair representation, not only as far as governance of council and managers, but as far as also the administration, admin personnel at each of the 4 cities, so that it's fair and there's equal representation across the board. But I can tell you that the staff has worked quite hard. The city managers and the chiefs have worked quite long. And to reiterate what the city manager said, this is through attrition because they've gauged about retirements and projecting out to the future. And this would not eliminate any positions, but only through attrition. And also, Vice Mayor, I've learned that it's not as fast and easy to assemble a fire station and meet it up to code and do what they need to do to bring this together. So even though with your skill set, I think you would be interested to see how the project evolves and the length it takes. So unless the mayor wants to say anything, I feel that staff has done their job, and I think I'm comfortable to support this for us going forward on phase 1.
Yeah, just briefly, I was in all of these meetings also, but not near as many as our city manager. In fact, all the city managers, they should be congratulated for working very, very hard to put this together, because it was a tough road. A lot of little roadblocks along the way, and I think there are some more, but it just makes sense. What doesn't make sense in this whole county, in fact, is to have 20 little cities with 20 little chiefs and 20 fire departments. It doesn't make sense at all, when in fact San Bruno, probably more than any other city, realized what mutual aid and everybody getting together really shows. So it just makes sense going forward. And besides that, we cannot, in fact, afford 20 fire stations. our fire departments in this county. And so, going forward, it just makes sense. And as Mr. Medina said, there's some issues. There are labor issues going forward. We hope to work all of those out, but I think this is the right move for all of us. Burlingame and Hillsborough realized that a few years ago. San Bruno shares the chief with Millbrae. We've received savings there, and so I think this is good. Would someone like to take some action?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion that we approve and implement Phase 1 of the fire consolidation plan.
Second.
Motion is second on the floor. On the question, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So carried.
5-0.
Item G, adopt a resolution authorizing the city manager to execute a time and expenses contract with HB Consulting Group to provide overall project management and engineering services for the Glenview Neighborhood Reconstruction Project.
Honorable Mayor, Council members, the tragic incident in September of last year inflicted unimaginable pain and suffering on the Glenview neighborhood, causing loss of life, damage to private and public property. Our streets, sidewalk, water and sewer systems sustained major damage. The reconstruction of the neighborhood is well underway. 6 building permits were already issued and 5 are currently pending. Temporary sewer and water connection was restored, and all of the necessary work for the canyon stabilization was implemented. With the reconstruction of the homes, it's time to rebuild the damaged infrastructures also. To facilitate this reconstruction process, in May, you already approved a design contract with BKF for $299,000 to provide design services for phased reconstruction. At that time, I indicated that to complexity of the phasing of this reconstruction with the ongoing private constructions, a high level and very involved project management will be necessary. It is the intent to rebuild the infrastructure in 4 phases, how you were updated before. First phase will be temporary safety improvement to be able to open the site for public access. Phase 2 will be the reconstruction of the water, sewer, and possibly part of the street and the sidewalk for the impact area around the explosion site. Phase 2, which will probably happen next spring, will be the reconstruction of the infrastructure throughout the whole neighborhood on as-needed basis. The whole neighborhood is defined as the whole area between San Bruno, Sneed, and the canyon. And the last phase right now is the reconstruction of the park itself. Is our estimation at this time that the construction will happen sometime next fall. In your package, you have a 1-page summary update on the project with map also, and the public also has on the table the same information if anybody need it. Tomorrow night, to seek input from the neighborhood, how the neighborhood should be rebuilt, and also to provide them with more information. At the same location at 7 o'clock will be a public meeting here at this location. In order for us to properly manage this project, our department requested proposal from HB Consulting Group, a very highly qualified consulting group in this type of project management of this kind of projects, and with a very strong track record implementing those big projects successfully. And based on our request, HB Consulting Group provided us with a proposal. The same for the management of this project. The same approach was applied for other big size project in the history of the city. How was the BART construction for many years ago, and also how is right now underway management of the construction for the Great Separation Project. What you have before you tonight is a time and expense contract proposal for the project management of the Glenview infrastructure reconstruction with a hourly rate of $175. The scope of the contract includes project coordination internally and externally, coordination with the neighborhood, with the design and among the design consultants, city departments, and private construction activities. The estimated cost at this time with a calculated average of 30 hours a week would be around $350,000 for about 18 months. What is the expected implementation time? That this is our best estimate at this time. Funding will be covered by state disaster reimbursement process, the city's insurance, and or the city's trust fund. You have our recommendation, and I will stand any question what you might have.
Any questions of the director? Action?
I'll introduce the resolution.
Councilmember O'Connell.
Aye.
Councilmember Medina.
Aye.
Councilmember Ibarra.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Salazar.
Aye.
Mayor Ruane.
Aye. Item 10H, receive, report, and approve response to San Mateo County Civil Grand Jury Report, Tasers, standardizing to save lives and reduce injuries. Chief?
Good morning, Honorable Mayor and members of the City Council.
Yeah, feels like morning.
Good evening, sorry.
Just thinking ahead, that's all. Good for you.
Yeah, I was overdone by the Grand Chief.
Mega. Mega Chief.
Mega Chief, I'm sorry. In September of last year, the San Mateo County Civil Grand Jury surveyed all San Mateo County law enforcement agencies regarding the use of tasers. They compiled those results in the report before you tonight, and the report is titled Tasers Standardizing to Save Lives and Reduce Injuries. The grand jury report concluded that tasers reduce the risk of injury to officers and offenders in violent and potential violent situations. The grand jury recommended that all agencies adopt uniform policies regarding tasers, use of force, that all officers should carry tasers as they carry firearms, and that agencies should track the use of tasers even if the device is not deployed. The grand jury's asked all the city's governing bodies to provide comment on the report, which is before you tonight. Should be noted that our policy on tasers is consistent with other agencies in San Mateo County. So is our use of force policy. We do require officers to document when that taser is deployed, even if it is not activated, and we are considering making mandatory wearing of the tasers for all of our officers. That concludes my presentation. I'll answer any questions that you may have.
Any questions of staff? Mr. Riegel?
Just as a ex-grand jury member, I appreciate you bringing this to the open session and responding promptly. Part of our problem of the year that I was on is we got no response or very minimal response from the various entities that we investigated. So on both of these cases, thank you for bringing it out in the public and obviously timely responding.
Thank you. Any action?
Move to approve the response to the county civil grand jury regarding tasers.
Second.
Motion and second on the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So carried. And our final item, 10I, receive a report and approve response to San Mateo County Civil Grand Jury Report, Cell Towers, Public Opposition and Revenue Source.
Thank you and good evening, Honorable Mayor and City Council. As the report states, on May 19th, the grand jury released a report on cell towers within San Mateo County, and this basically focused on two things. Number one, to what extent is there public opposition, and what can be done to increase the transparency of cell towers within San Mateo County? And the second is, to what extent are cities receiving revenue from cell towers? And with all grand jury reports, the city must formally respond to the report. Attached to the staff report, you will find the letter responding to this. I won't go over all the findings and recommendations in detail, but a couple of the highlights. Overall, they found that, not surprisingly, in almost every city in San Mateo County, there has been some public opposition to a cell tower application. They also found that not all, but a majority of cities are receiving revenue from leasing public lands for these cell phone towers. A couple of the recommendations, two that I'll highlight. The grand jury recommended that cities do negotiate lease terms that generate revenue for public land. In our response, we said, hey, we're already doing the right thing. We responded that we currently have 7 cell towers that generate about $180,000 annually for the city of San Bruno, and we just entered into a new lease that will generate, about $18,000 more. Recommendation number 5 stated that cities should develop an easy-to-read web page that guides people through the cell tower process and includes all local, state, and federal regulations. We have some of the information on our website right now, but we intend within the next 90 days to put a more detailed, easy-to-read, one-page sheet that guides people through what all the local, state, and federal regulations are. So I could take any questions at this time.
Any questions of staff? Action.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion is second on the floor. On the question, all those in favor?
Aye.
Good job.
Good. Item 11, we've already done item number 11. Item 12, comments from council members.
Oh, through the chair.
Irene.
I just like to remind people it is on our website, and we've done this for the last 13 years, that it is time for the Beautification Award nominations. And if you go to the city's website and do a search in the search key and put in Beautification Awards, it'll take you to the page that has the actual application on it. Other than that, you can also pick some up at the city clerk's office. She's going to copy some of those and put them on the ledge there for people. And those people who received Beautification Awards or were nominated last year, I hope you look around your neighborhood and at the businesses and nominate deserving people. Remember that's one of our categories that we're trying to push is xeriscaping. That is landscaping in your front yard. It's supposed to be people with curb appeal. And xeriscaping is landscaping that people, the plants and the materials that are there are supposed to be drought tolerant and use little water. So we hope people look around and nominate, and we'll be giving the awards on October 11th.
Great. Mr. Ibarra.
Through the chair, I just want to make an early announcement that I attended a meeting at Skyline College this past week, and for the 3rd year in a row, San Bruno will have a American Cancer Society sponsored Relay for Life. But for this coming year, in 2012, it will be open to the entire city of San Bruno. They tried for the first couple of years to make it more concentrated on the Skyline College. It will still be in Skyline College, but the success is, they recognize the success would be better if we branched out throughout the community. So I'm not necessarily the major representative of the city for Relay of Life, but I'm just making an announcement that if you're interested, it will be in the last weekend of April 2012, and more information to come.
Good, thank you. Anyone else? All right, item 13, we do have a closed session. It's with legal counsel to provide direction regarding potential litigation, Government Code 54956.9B1. We don't have any, will not have any reportable action to take. And having said that, we will now adjourn. The next regular city council meeting will be held here on July 26, 2011, right here at the Senior Center. Meeting adjourned.